Yeah, hello and welcome to a new episode of our weekly Spielworxx chat. And we are having a guest today. So it's Edward Euler of Heavy Cardboard. Welcome, Edward. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Uli.
Yeah,
It's nice to actually see you.
so my face, nobody needs to see this, but I'm really, it would be better on my part of just audio. So, but what can we do? So, I'm glad that you are here. But before we start with Edward, I have just two brief Spielworxx news. So the first one is ConWorxx. That's the Spielworxx online convention. It will be held on October 9 and 10. And there is now, as of today, some info on my website, and I will post quickly in the chat window the URL in case if you are interested. So, and
Let's see if that might have been on my end. So see if that's better as far as audio goes. Sorry about
yeah,
that.
so there is this, and Edward, you have no sound here, they
Yep.
say.
See if that may have been on my end. So see if that has been fixed.
Hopefully it is now. So, but in the meantime, I will put in your website here info too. So there it is. And Edward, please say something if they.
All
Uh,
right.
I.
Checking to see if the audio works. Hopefully.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I don't do this for a living, right?
Oh, that's okay. Everything's okay here. Yeah. And somebody is saying that there is still no sound from you, Edward.
Okay. So it's coming through on my end. So it's
Yeah.
everything is good here. Hmm.
So we'll see.
Because I
We'll
see
see.
the chat on Twitch as well.
Okay.
And all right. Well, let me mess around with my settings. Continue. Go ahead. Talk
No,
about
no.
Spielworxx
I
stuff
talk
while I
about
do this.
the ConWorxx and the Spielworxx online convention. So, if you are interested in playing a live game with me, with some designers, with some friends, online via Vessel, please drop me a mail. So, and we'll see what I can do. So there are still a few spots open. Please get in touch if you are interested. The second news item is the cost, of course, my latest game. And I'm really, really happy that the reviews that there are in German language now are getting better and better. I'm really proud of the design team. So this is wonderful, and people now seem to recognize and seem to enjoy the mechanics as well. So the cost is definitely, Edward is back here, that the mechanics are excellent. It's not a study about a difficult topic that you play once and then you
Right.
are out of it. So it's really also the mechanics. But what I really, really love to hear, and we got this via reviews lately, is that people are start talking about the game and the topic afterwards, and they start talking about our modern economic life. And this is, of course, something that I'm enjoying, and I can only thank the whole design team here. And
Yeah,
I
I
see
think they did
Mo.
a great job with that, and I think I'll be honest, I didn't know asbestos was a natural occurring thing until the game. Now, I originally played the game a couple years ago when it was a
Yes,
prototype
yes.
before you had signed it, and I was like, wait, asbestos mining? Wait, asbestos is like I thought it was a man-made product. Still,
Um,
they're
we have
playing
no
what's
sound
going
from
on.
you, Edward,
Uh,
here. So, and
so everything on my end
via
is
Skype, I
right.
hear you well. What I may could do is maybe I could switch to my boxes from Skype because I'm hearing you, but this will probably not be too good for the sound. But let's see if this will work out. Let me check this.
Okay. All right.
Let me check this.
Hmm.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll manage.
That's all right.
And please say something, Edward.
All right, so just checking, testing audio, seeing if this works.
Can you hear
Oh, is
Edward
it
now?
live?
Sound is good
Oh, great,
now.
sounds good now.
So,
Now we're working. Here we go.
so it's definitely not an ideal solution, but at least we can hear the person why we are here today. And this is
All
definitely
right,
not me.
there we go.
This is Edward. But before we now go to you, because you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the cost in prototype format before, probably some people could not hear this, but it gets now full circle back because I think it was HeavyCon 2018 when I met Brian and Mo for the first time at
Yep.
your HeavyCon, which, in my opinion, I'm not saying this because Edward is a guest here, this was one of the best conventions that I ever attended. So, because of the people, I learned to meet so many wonderful people. I got in touch again with my good friend Carmen. So with lots of people, but I was able to play the custom prototype format as well, and that was an amazing appearance. And as you said earlier, Edward, probably nobody heard this. Here, this was the start for the cost for you and for me, and afterwards I signed it.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
and I'm glad
it
you did
was.
because I mean the maybe somebody else would have signed the game. It's possible, but this seems like something that fits really well in the Spielworxx lineup. Honestly, between the mechanisms as well as call it an edgy theme or a theme that not a lot of publishers would find is in their wheelhouse, but after a game like Colonialism or something along the lines of that, the fact that you as a publisher are willing to take on these not macabre, but these darker, more serious themes, and the fact that you're willing to do that seemed like a perfect match. So I'm really glad to see that it got published, and I think it's a fantastic game. I think it obviously very abstracted.
Yes.
You know, the literal the cost as well as just the the theme of it being abstracted.
Yes.
But I think it handles it in a really good way, and it does what I think everybody set out to do, which is make people stop and think about the cost of what their actions
Yes,
entail.
yes. I agree 100%, and I mentioned this here before, and thank you for Edward. But now enough of Spielworxx. So, because this is not why we are here. So, maybe we start with some for people, because, as I mentioned earlier to Edward, just when we talked before, we have quite a few overseas listeners here, but we have also some German listeners over here in viewing, and they may not know that much about heavy carpet. Of course, shame on you. So you should. And but please give us some personal background of you, Edward.
So about me. So I'm 45 years old. I'm a Marine. Now, I'm not active duty. I got out 3 days before 9/11. I worked in aviation for the majority of my adult life and kind of burn out on working on airplanes. I did that when I was in the Marine Corps, traveled around the world doing that, and just got tired of it. And was playing poker on the side for some side income for a number of years, and then eventually was making more money before I went to work than I would make in a day or two or three playing online poker. And so eventually I was like, you know what? I would rather try it and fail than be 70, 80 years old and wonder what if. I didn't have a wife, no kids, nothing like that. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to take a shot at trying to play poker professionally, now is going to be the right time to do it.
Yes.
So I did that. I was successful at it for a number of years. And then Black Friday happened here in the States, which was April 15th. I think it was 2011. The Department of Justice shut down online poker. that day, and so I had a decision to make. Do I move overseas or do I go back into aviation? And decided I wanted to stay in the States, so okay. So went back into aviation. While I was in aviation, started listening to these things called podcasts. Had never heard of them.
Yeah.
And I listened to a podcast called The History of Rome by Mike Duncan. I am a huge history buff. And I started listening to this, and I was like, this is amazing. And then I started listening to board game podcasts, because eventually, right? And then I noticed all the podcasts I was listening to. So I listened to stuff like the Dice Tower, Secret Cabal, the Game Pit, and a bunch of others, Ludology and all this stuff. But the thing that I noticed was the majority, or almost unilaterally, nobody was talking about the games that me and my friends were playing, which are the heavy economic strategy games, or the heavier games. And I was like, why is that? And I was always raised that if you're going to complain about a problem, offer a solution. So I talked to my friend at the time, Tony, and said, hey, what do you think about starting a podcast? Neither of us have a clue what the hell we're doing. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And that was 6 years ago or so. And from there, it became a YouTube channel. And from there, it became a job.
Yeah.
Or a career, actually.
Yeah. It is definitely a career, in my opinion. And by the way, to all viewers, if you have a question, you can put them in the chat window, and we'll try to respond later. And seeing there's Jason here, there's Mo, of course, and somebody else here. And please stay safe, because Hurricane Sally is apparently coming to the Gulf, and somebody's already saying we are already soaked here. So to everybody there, stay safe, and hopefully you aren't hurt at all. So that is very important. I'm not sure, because Jason is late again. Jason Dinger, this is, if you don't know, the wonderful person and designer of the Cajun trilogy. So he's late again, as usual here, and he's saying that's a lame excuse. I'm trying to get the grass cut before Hurricane Sally gets there. So no, not a good excuse. So no.
I'll be honest. When a hurricane is bearing down on me, my life priorities, where cutting the grass falls in that is pretty low, Jason. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
just saying.
I agree. And there is a podfather of gaming, the retired Stephen, the Mr. Retirement himself. So hello Stephen here. So yeah, when you're retired, you have time to even listen to the Spielworxx weekly chat. So it's amazing. But getting back to Edward, so you were playing poker before, so even professionally. So you were used to games, but these are not the games that you are featuring in your at Heavy Cardboard here. What made you transition to these games? When did you start in, let's call them, modern games? Although, of course, poker is a very modern game.
Sure, it's also a very old game, right? So it's, but I would say 2013 or so, 2012, loosely 2013. And the reason for that, honestly, is because I had poker taken away from me. And that was the impetus for getting into the hobby, to be honest. When we moved to Colorado from living in Las Vegas, when I was playing poker, Colorado has pretty heavy winters at times, and we weren't really outdoors people, hiking and snowboarding and all that stuff at the time. So was trying to figure out what's a hobby could do indoors during the winter. Found board games. And the reason that I tended to gravitate towards the heavier end of the hobby was the fact that it's a competition of decision making. And I don't want a lot of randomness, and I don't want a lot of luck in my games. Some is okay, none, fine. But ultimately what I want in a board game is I want my decisions to matter. I want to know that if you and I, Uli, are playing a game and I make better decisions over the course of a game than you do, that I'm going to win.
Yes.
That's exactly what happens in poker.
Yeah.
Although the long term in poker, now, anybody could win a single hand of poker, but over the long term, if I have better skill than you, I'm going to win.
Yes.
And so, honestly, board games kind of filled a hole that poker had left for me. Okay. And got heavy into it, I'd say, about 2013. One of my first games that I ever played was Dominant Species, and loved it, and off to the races from there.
Yeah. But this connection, poker, heavy games makes sense to me. Yes. So understood. But tell us something else. So what is a typical day at the Heavy Cardboard HQ? So from start to finish. So what is so how are you? What is a typical day? Yeah.
So normally I sleep in pretty late because I tend, but I also go to bed far later than you. Though.
Yes, that's right. I know.
So usually get up about, I don't know, about 10 a.m. or so, make some tea. And
so
then,
what tea is
from
this?
there, honestly, sitting right where I'm at is the majority of my day.
Okay.
Now, whether I have a live stream to do, whether I have a podcast to record, or whether that is just a behind the scenes type day, I'm sitting here usually, or at my desk up in my bedroom, which also doubles as my office, answering emails, learning games, in theory, invoicing, doing all these kinds of, behind the scenes stuff, or working on software, learning new software, anything like that. But the majority of it is honestly around the content, whether that is me learning a game, so going through the rule book, like I have Mage Knight in front of me, I have Yin Yang in front of me, and I have BIOS Genesis all here in front of me on the table. And I have 2 of those coming up this week. I got another one of those BIOS Genesis in a couple of weeks. And so it's not only learning the games, but then if I'm getting ready for a live stream, like I have one tomorrow, for instance, I'm going to write up a teaching script. So go through the rules, but then I have to figure out how's the best way to go about teaching a game. Because going from the rule book, the way rule books are laid out, normally not the ideal way to teach a game.
Yes.
And so I basically try and figure out, how would I want to learn this game?
Yeah.
And then once I figure that out, then I have to go through and I write my teaching script. It's basically a detailed outline of everything there is rules-wise in the game. And then put that into like a Word document, format it in a certain way that I have it formatted. And then that can take anywhere from 3 hours to 15 hours, depending on how big of a game that is.
So I did not, wonderful information. I did not knew this, so that you are actually, it makes perfect sense to me now that I'm hearing this, that you are making a teaching script of it. Because, as you say, most rules, they describe the components at the start, how the game is set up, but they are not ideal for teaching a game. But I did not knew this, that you are writing scripts for games. So
well, the reason for that is almost everything that I do on the show is live, so I don't get a chance to edit.
Yeah.
You have other content creators that do wonderful jobs, but it's all edited and everything else. For me, I get one take, and I want to present it in a way that is fluid and that makes sense, and that is, no matter how well I know a game, even a game like Dominant Species or Age of Steam, something that I've played oodles countless times, there are still things that you will forget. And I don't want to be that teacher to where you're an hour into the game and you're like, oh, there's one thing I forgot to tell you. Oh yeah, this. And then people are like, well, had I known that, I wouldn't have done this or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I want to have all this laid out to where it not only is as succinct as I can make it, although I tend to talk a lot. I want it to flow well, and I want it to be as if you were sitting here at my table. This
Yeah.
is how I would be teaching you the game. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it just makes sense to me to do it
Yeah,
that way.
no. I just did not knew it. And by the way, there's another compliment here from Matt. So hello, Matt. That's Matt Wolf, the designer of Squaring Circleville and Raising Chicago, which will be
Oh,
out
nice.
from Spielworxx next year and into 2022. But he's saying, and he's right, there are way more people here this week than normal. Must be the heavy cardboard reach. And yes, that's what it is. Who really wants to listen all week to me? And so you see, and this is a compliment, and I think it's absolutely true. For me, what I think, so I'm not sure how I would do this, how I would manage this, is you are playing and learning, especially so many new games. So definitely you are playing and learning more games than I'm doing, because I have my prototype games, then I need to play them over and over. Of course, I'm playing also other games, published games, but often the reality is I also play them only once, or because I don't have the time anymore. But learning all these new games, this, in my opinion, this is very tough. Weren't you, or aren't you ever close to gaming burnout, that you are saying, oh, that you are seeing a new game box and you're saying, oh, so go away? Or is this, no problem? So how are you handling
Uh,
this?
I will say that COVID, and ever since, April, call it March, April timeframe, things have been a little bit different in that regard. Normally, no, it's absolutely no problem for me. And the reason for that is I enjoy learning.
Okay.
I don't care if it's history. I don't care if what it is. Just I appreciate learning, and I want to see new things. I like to travel. I want to see what's around the next corner type thing. So I have this thirst for curiosity. And so learning a new game to me is enjoyable. So I don't mind the constant churn that I have to do with learning new games. However, since COVID has happened, it's taken away it's taken away people in person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Yes.
Jess is here, my partner, Board Game Girl. She's in chat. I
Yes.
see her. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Jess. Yes.
She's here, about half the time. And so that helps. But I miss having the people over. So there's that. But doing things like this help, kind of break up. I don't want to call it the monotony, because it makes it sound like, oh, you're learning games. It sounds so terrible.
Yeah.
No, but anything that you do, no matter how much you love it, it still can be work. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So not having the people here has been tough. The other thing, and this might sound funny or dumb to some people, but one of my biggest enjoyments and kind of hobbies now that board games are my job and my career, poker has become my hobby. And the fact that I can't go to the casino and go play as, my form of release, of just, it's where I can just chill out and relax, right? And losing that, now there are card rooms that are open. They're 25, 30 minutes away from me. But I have a responsibility to both Jess,
Yes.
her kids,
Yeah.
some of the folks that do come over.
Yeah.
At this point, we wear masks and everything, but I'll be honest, a lot of the folks that are coming over tend to be older, in their 50s, 60s and everything. And so I owe them to be responsible to not risk them by going out and and playing poker. And so losing that kind of, that hobby and that break from, because I'm in my apartment
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah. can be
And so
worse.
it gets old, it gets tiring after a
Yeah.
while. And whether it's go for a drive or I'm going to be adopting a new greyhound here in a couple of months. I'm looking forward to that, taking my dog for a walk, stuff like that. So it's, even though my day to day hasn't changed a whole lot since COVID, the it can at times get a little monotonous. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, of course. I had the same thing. So Germany opened up a little bit because our numbers are way lower. So it has opened up. So we were even on a short holiday last week for a couple of days. Of course, with social distancing, but we can do these things. But I know what you are saying. But still, one thing, did you just say older people of 50 or more? So did I
Hold on,
hear
I'm
this?
45. No. Hold on. What I'm saying is, I mean, let's be honest, right? The older you get, the more susceptible you are to
Of
COVID,
course,
right?
you are
And
absolutely
so,
right.
like, I have like Joe Huber or Eric Brocious, some of the 18XX folks
Yes.
that are they're retirement age.
No,
Let's
no,
put it
you
that way.
have to be
And
careful.
so
Yeah.
I I feel a responsibility to be responsible in what I do so that I don't put them at risk. And
Yes.
so, with that said, one thing that has really helped, sports are back, right? So,
Yeah, yes and no. So I watched NHL. So some of the games of the
yeah,
NHL you can see in Germany, but everything. And we have, of course, we have football for you, American
sure,
soccer
soccer, right? Yeah.
back, but without fans, without people in the stadium, it's nothing. So, and you see that
See, I
the
disagree. You
TV
really think
rate,
so?
the visitors at TV, it's going downhill here because,
Really?
but they are slowly opening up the stadiums again and the halls. So, and the hockey season may start in November, and really this would be something that would hit me hard if there is no hockey season here in Germany starting. So because for me emotionally this is really important. Even if I would
Oh,
just
I
watch the
know.
game on TV. Yeah, you know, you were at the Roosters games, of course. You were there at Iserlohn, so you know, so you know the atmosphere. Yeah, I forgot that.
But on that note, one of the things that has helped, right? You're asking me about burnout and everything.
Yeah.
Is hey, you know what? Hey, there's a Reds game, baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan. I'm a sports fan in general. Whether it's UFC, hockey, football, baseball, I enjoy just about any sport.
Okay.
And just to be able to take a break for an hour or two and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to go catch the Reds game, or, oh, hey, even if it's a team that I'm not a fan of, just to get away from it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then I
And
come back and I'm excited about it. And so one of the cool things, though, is the fact that I get excited about games. Like when games show up, sometimes just unannounced, right?
yeah.
They'll just show up at my PO box for the show, and I'll be like, sometimes I'm like, oh, what's this? And I'm like, oh, okay, let's check into this. Other times I'm like, okay, it's another game I got to cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, here's a good example. So Yin Yang, right? This is a
Yeah.
game from Spiel last year. I picked it up. We loved the multiplayer version of it, and I was in in Slack, in the heavy cardboard Slack group, and one of the ladies in there, Brianna, brought up. She's like, "Hey, there's a solo." I was like, "It says so." Had no idea, and I was like, "Now I'm all excited to go check it out." So I'm gonna. So there's still that boyish excitement of, ooh, I can't wait to learn this. That I
Yeah.
don't think. I mean,
But
it's 6 years going on, and it's still exciting to me. It's still fresh. It's still fun.
that is
So
great. That
I'm
is.
fortunate in that regard.
Yes, that is great. But I think because you are putting so much effort into this, and everybody who's putting so much effort in their job, there needs to be an enjoyment. Of course, it's not always all the time. Sometimes you say, now this is happening or now that is happening, and of course all this administrative stuff that you need to do, I need to do, invoicing and all this stuff, it's not always fun to do, it needs to be done. But as long as most of your working day, and we are spending so much time working, if work is not fun, then better stop it as long as you can do it. But I would like to get back to maybe some anecdotes, because I would be interested in, do you have some personal highlights of playthroughs, maybe with guests or interviews? So something that stands out, which you think are so memorable. So, yeah.
All right. So let me think on this. Playthroughs, the one that always I come back to. There's a game called Brides and Bribes from Space Balloons that I did when I was back in Denver, and it was one of those moments that literally I will keep with me for the rest of my life. And there, in fact, behind me, this is our Glory to Rome board, and there is a tile from that game that is up here, and it's up here for a reason, because of a moment in that stream. It is the hardest I remember laughing in my life, and it was just an amazing time. That was a blast. So you talked about memorable things. I enjoy learning, as I mentioned earlier. So the interviews that I do with people, the one that you and I did, when we were back in Denver, being able to sit down with folks like, Mark Herman from, War Game Designer, or Andrew Rader. There's somebody that I would never, ever cross paths with in real life, who is he's a rocket scientist with SpaceX.
Yes.
Right?
Wonderful.
But one of the coolest moments that I've had was at the Gathering of Friends. Not this year, so 2019. We were going to play a game with Tom Lehman, designer of
Race to the Galaxy,
oodles of games, Race to the Galaxy, stuff like that, right? And I go to the restroom, I come back out. Somebody's in my seat. And I'm like, oh, Jess, and they're like, no, go ahead, here. We're gonna play 5 players. Oh, okay, cool. So I sit down. And so I'm looking at the table. So Bianca, Jeroen Douwman's
I know her. Yes.
Of Splatter, right? So Bianca's here. Tom Lehman is here. This new guy that I don't know is sitting to my right, me, Jess, and then Jeroen comes over. So I have Tom Lehman, Jeroen from Splatter, and then this guy, and I look over at him, and it's William Attia, designer of Kalis. And I'm just I look at Jess and I'm like, this is so cool, right? And we were playing the prototype of Tom Lehman's Res Arcana, the expansion that was coming out for that. And William Attia broke it. And then listening to Tom and William and then Jeroen basically play test and then go through the various iterations of, what could we do to fix this? It was one of those moments that was just awesome to listen to. You get people whose work you respect, and I'm in awe of designers. Because of the fact, not because, you design, but how do you come up with this stuff? I have no idea how designers come up with the things that they come up with. And being able to sit and listen to them deconstruct and then reconstruct ways that he could implement things to avoid this infinite loop that William had done, that was fascinating to me. That was one of those moments that I was just like, this is surreal. This was just amazing. Another would be at LyriaCon a few years ago, actually. I was sitting playing, I believe it was Yinsi. I think it was. But there was you in the room. It was Rola and Costa, Veronica and Mariano from What's Your Game. Nuno and Paulo from What's Your Game, uh, the Brands, Marcus, and I can't think of his wife's name.
Inca.
Inca. They were there, and here I am, like basically doing a play test of this, surrounded by, and you were there, like all you, and I'm like, there's no pressure here.
No, no,
And
no.
it was just these surreal moments of being able to be surrounded by the greatness and the minds that come up with the games that we enjoy. This is just awesome, man. There's some really, really cool moments that I've been fortunate to have.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you are sharing this because I think it tells a lot about you, how you see the hobby. And I really like this because it's not, as you said, oh, these wonderful, great people. No, you see, you want to be there and you are learning something. It's something that is fascinating. And actually, although I'm in this industry for a long time now, but I'm also still a fanboy. If I'm getting so excited when I'm seeing some people or talking to people. It's still fascinating. This really drives me. This
Yeah.
really drives
Well,
me. Yeah.
one of the other ones that I can't believe I forgot to mention this was a few years ago going to the UK Games Expo, and we actually headed up to UK a couple days early because a friend of ours had
Francis
helped
Tresham,
us
yeah.
organize an interview with the Francis Tresham, the late
Yeah.
great Francis Tresham, and I have never been more nervous or more intimidated by a situation and by a person than I was in that regard, because I knew that Francis was getting up there in age and I didn't know how much longer he was going to be around. And I mean, Francis Tresham is one of the, if there were like a hall of fame, he would absolutely be in there. And there really wasn't a whole lot regarding with him as far as interviews or anything like that. So I felt a lot of pressure to try and get answers to a lot of questions that people had.
Yeah.
And that interview was like herding cats, meaning he decided to take it into his own direction, and it was one of the most amazing moments. But I was so nervous. I was so nervous, and at the same time, I could be walking through Essen, and Martin Wallace is like, "Hey, Edward," just walking down, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, Martin, how's it going?" Like,
Yeah.
that's just cool,
Yeah.
right? Like, so yeah, I don't know, man. I still get this childlike wonder about this hobby, even, 6, 7 years into it, or no, God, 8 years almost now, that I don't think is ever going to go away. I don't fanboy over people, but
No.
I appreciate the way that designers, developers, publishers, illustrators, graphic design, how they do. I appreciate their work and how they are able to do what it is they do. And so I get excited about
Yeah,
games.
but I think this is, as I said, this is really important. I think as soon as we both lose this excitement, if we don't see it anymore, if we just see, this is a new game box. If this is happening all the time, then we should quit. I think then it's the best time to quit. And as long as we are having this excitement, we should stay and have a great time. But it is already, let me see if there are some questions.
And I see that Matt says lots of alcohol. That's how
Yeah,
we decide.
that was a great remark, of course. So that's probably the reason. So, well, although when I was playing with Matt at BGGCon, there wasn't that much of alcohol. I may have not seen it, but I don't think so. There is another one.
Vince asks one. What Spielworxx game
Yeah,
have I not played that I'm most looking forward to?
yeah.
Yenzi, Sands of Time, or something else? And to be honest with you, he actually. So I played a prototype of Yenzi, but
At
actually
Laria.
and right, and both of those you're actually going to see on the show in 2020, both Yinzi and Sands of Time. And I'm excited about playing both of those. So yeah, I think Vince pretty much answered his own question in that those two. Yeah.
So I can already say spent quite a few hours for both games learning the game. And I think the script will be also long. So yeah, no,
That's
both
okay.
both are detailed
See,
games.
but see that it's called job security. As long as people need videos to be able to learn rules and how to play games, then I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, you always see it positive, so that's great.
I try.
Yeah, and hopefully, because we are running late here, but it's wonderful talking to you, Edward. And hopefully, this is my greatest wish is that we are all, I do not only mean you, but everybody who's viewing this, that we are able to meet next year, maybe in the US at a convention, Origins or Gen Con. Personally, I think it will be very early next summer. Maybe it's possible, I don't think so, but maybe for the fall, for the autumn here in Germany for Spiel. I know because I saw Stephen before that he, as an eternal optimist, that he says, well, there will be an Origins next year. I hope for it. I'm not sure. But this is my greatest wish, that we all can sit together, not separated by a screen here, and talk and play a game. That would be really wonderful. So thank you very much, Edward. Really, it was a pleasure, and as I said, let's meet soon in person. And
I hope so, man. I mean, it's good seeing you. Legitimately, it's been Spiel, I guess, was the last time you and I actually have actually seen each other. So yeah, it's good to see you, and it's really a shame about Spiel this year, but obviously understandable. And to be honest with you, as optimistic as I try to be, I think you're probably closer to that than Steven is. I hope Steven is right.
Yes.
I hope he is, but I have my doubts. It's gonna feel weird getting back into a convention after being apart as long as we have. So I'm looking forward to it. Just everybody out there, stay safe, social distance, wear your masks, do all that stuff, and I can't wait to have a cocktail and be able to sit around and shake hands again and be in person and play a game.
Yeah, so I agree, Edward. And to everybody, there will be a regular episode. So just boring me next week, I will talk in detail about ConWorxx. And if you have a question that you would like to ask in advance, drop me a mail at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. Or if you have a topic that you would like to see discussed by me next week, just send me a mail. Until then, in German, bleibt gesund, and of course, Black Lives Matter. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care, everybody.